Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Kune, and welcome to Kune from 2X eCommerce, and welcome to this episode. If you're listening to this on a podcast, head over to our YouTube channel. It's called Physical Product Business on YouTube, and tune in to watch this presentation. If you're listening to the pod, if you're watching on YouTube, welcome. Now, today I'm going to be talking about how to scale winning Facebook ad sets. That is winning Facebook ad sets. So if you have a top performing ad set and you're looking to get more out of it, tune in. Okay, so I'm going to start off as to why I'm doing this, and it's just based off on experience. If you look at the screen in front of you, in December, I spent about $7,000 on Facebook, in a Facebook campaign, and then in January I spent 19,000. So I spent 168% more than what I spent, month on month. Basically, I spent more. And on the flip side, from a revenue standpoint, the revenue jumped by about 207%. From about 14,000, dollars to 45,000, dollars. So and I was able to do this and achieve this through ad sets, through scaling specific ad sets that were winning. And what I want to show you, today is how I went about it. So this is like, very, very important when you're thinking about scaling, a Facebook, ad set. The first thing you need to, be reminded of, or you need to be aware of, is first of all, you need to understand, you need to have an understanding and a solid, um, a solid foundation on three things. Three things. These three things are processes, your finances in terms of your spend, and also your customer service. Because if any of these three is weak, it's going to affect you when you scale, right? And for me to scale this further to 100,000 a month, I need to get on top of our processes in the company, how we handle orders, how we process orders, how we liaise with our suppliers, how we communicate with our customers, how we fulfill orders, just getting all the processes, very, very solid. Hopefully in a way where things hardly need my input, where employees are communicating with other employees and making things work. The other is finance. There's a clear difference of spending $250 a day, on Facebook, to spending 2,500 dollars a day. And you need to balance your finances so you're not in the red. It's easy to see all the money come in, but if some of it doesn't stick, it's not worth it at all. So even simple things like negotiating better payment terms with your suppliers will help with your finances. So you need to get on top of your finances, on top of your credits, to make sure that you're able to cope with the scale. You don't want the scale to get out of hand from or be more than your cost. So you need to look and watch your cost. The third is customer service. There's always going to be a proportion of people who are not happy, whether they're not happy with their customer experience or not happy with the products you sell to them. You need to also make sure that you have the processes there to serve these customers, and building out a team to serve these customers. Okay, processes are more important than the team. Broken process will create failure, basically. So your customer support and customer services, should be really, really on top of the game. So I'm going to jump right into the fundamentals of scaling. Every person, every expert, every marketer that has scaled a Facebook campaign knows that the fundamental of scaling is reach, right? So having an understanding of reach is like super important. And what exactly is reach? Reach basically are the number of people your ad is likely to touch to get to. When you do all your targeting, it's that bar, that gauge really on the right hand side of your Facebook ads management, campaign, dashboard that says, this is the potential reach, and it would also tell you an estimated daily reach based on your spend. So the example I have here is like the potential reach of about 7.5 million people with a spend of about, I think it was $300 a day. And the reach Facebook is said was about 4,200 to 20,000 people to reach on a daily basis. And just looking at the stats, it did reach with that spend about 20,000, the higher end of the spectrum is 20,000 people a day. Now, based off on that, if you're trying to churn through 7.5 million, trying to show your creatives to 7.5 million people, and 20,000 people are seeing it today, you'd need a total of about 375 days to go through that entire, to go through the 7.5 million. So one way to do this is to shorten that time, shorten the 375 days to weeks or potentially fewer months, by scaling a campaign. You're just trying to maximize the effectiveness of an audience in a shorter period of time by scaling. And your base, channels, in terms of like your reach would be obviously your custom audience and your lookalike audience. Okay. Now, it's also very fundamental to understand that there are two elements required for scaling, two elements. On the one hand of the scale is your offer. What's in your offer? It's a product you're selling if you're into e-commerce. And your actual creative, whether it's an image ad or whether it's a carousel ad or whether it's a collections dynamic product ad, it's that offer that features your products, right? That's your offer on the one hand. On the other hand, it's the people, the audience you're trying to serve the offer to, right? And my advice is when you're trying to build out audiences, try and build out audiences to the millions so you have a better chance, because only a minute percentage, will actually convert from a huge audience. So in e-commerce, you have conversion rates ranging from about 1 to 3%, usually. With Facebook and the reach, your conversions will be 0 points, a percent, so it could be, it's not unusual, it's not for you to see your conversions on a reach campaign, for your reach conversions to be about 0.05 percent. So with that in mind, you want to be looking at millions. On the flip side, if you're going for a highly targeted audience, then the conversions may actually be better, but you're going to pay a lot more to reach these people because there's more competition with a smaller audience. Okay, so when should you scale? Exactly when should you scale? My minimum is if I see a winning ad set, that's already delivering 3x, return on advertising spend ROAS, I would, say, okay, this is a candidate for potentially scaling. And what I tend to do is I would run this test conversion campaign with, these audiences, several audiences, $50 a day, $50 a day. And if one just blows in terms of like, gets a cost per purchase of like $5 and it's delivered 10 orders, off the back of that, which is rare, that's going to scale, to $500, quite easily. I could just scale that from, the $50 to $500, pretty quickly by duplicating, which I'm going to go through later on. But you need to find winning ad sets before you even think about, scaling. And if you scale rubbish, you're going to get rubbish and you're going to waste a lot of money. The other thing you have to remember is you're going to, so let's say the campaign is doing 3x and then you scale it. It's likely not going to do 3x when it's scaled from 50 to 500 still in terms of like return on advertising spend. It may do 2.5, it may do 2. what you need to look at are your numbers, your profitability numbers. Do these numbers actually, at a 2x return on advertising spend, are we still making money? And that's a key thing. And as you scale, you have more cash in the bank, and you're likely to have more profits. But you need to always watch your profit margins, okay? Just remember to keep running multiple ad sets and experimenting. It's imperative to keep experimenting and seeing, where the potential winners would be. And how do you experiment? You're going to use lots of lookalike audiences, lots of custom audiences, as I said, earlier. Okay, so this is an example of which I'm going to start out with like 4 scaling methods you can employ right away to start scaling, to start growing and driving more sales to your Facebook. The first scaling method is what I call the incremental budget scale. It's a slow lane method, as I call it, but I'm going to explain why. So the example I have here is a campaign where the amount spent, the website purchase ROS, return on advertising spend, was about 4.28, and the cost per website purchase was about $12.71, and I was like, wow, with these 2 metrics, this is a brilliant, clever, candidate for scale. So this particular ad set was doing I'd spent $444 on it, and it already generated $1,900 off the back of $444 spent. So Facebook was doing a great job here. So what you do in this scenario with the incremental method, which is scaling method 1, what you want to do is you want to every 2 to 3 days, every 3 days actually, you want to increase your budget with that particular ad set by 20 to 30%. Okay. So that way, Facebook adjusts the budget adjustment. Allows Facebook's learning phase, to readjust, quite gradually. This is incremental understanding, of how to better optimize your ad sets and better optimize your audience. If you were to shock it, that particular ad set with by say increasing it by 100%. You're just going to reset the entire learning phase from Facebook, and it may not even work anymore. So the suggested thing to do from Facebook, and even from experience, and from other experts, is that you every 3 days increase it by 20 to 30%. I just use 25% increase, and you could set up an automated rule to increase the budget quite easily. So this could be consistent over time. So method number 2 is what I call the duplication method. It's a faster lane method. So what you want to do here is you want to start out with pretty much one campaign that's delivering, leave it as it is, or you could even apply the incremental method to it. But when it comes to day 3 and you see it's consistently delivering the return on advertising spend you want, duplicate that campaign, right? And then add more budget to it. So you could 2.5x it, you could 3x, the budget. So in this case, it was $100 a day I was doing, and then I duplicated it to $250. The $250 is still delivering your ROAS consistently over 3 days. You could quadruple that. So I quadrupled that to like 4 to 1,000 from a potential $250 spend from the 3 days consistent, $300 spend to $1,000 a day spend. So that way, in a matter of 9 days, you have 3 working campaigns side by side. One with a spend of $100 a day, another with a spend of $250 a day, and another with $1,000 dollars. So you've scaled in a matter of 10 days from $100 dollars of spend to $1,350 of spend, still returning, still giving you desired results. So you can imagine the impact that's going to have on revenue just using the duplication method. Just remember that when you're making budget adjustments, you do it at the start of the day the first 3 hours of the day is what's suggested, because Facebook resets its learning, resets its learning phase, every 24 hours, based on every 24 hours basically. You want to try and prevent doing or launching campaigns in the middle of the day. Then method number 3 is what I call audience scaling. And by that I mean like horizontal scaling. And what you want to do really is test as many audiences as possible, okay, or scale into as many audiences as possible using the duplication method. So you could have a winning campaign. So even if just going back to the example of a $1,000 a day spent, if that audience is doing really well, you could then duplicate first of all duplicate the $100 a day spent by lookalike audiences. You could start out with 1%. You could have AdSets that just dedicated to 1%, 2%, 3%, 4% lookalike of a specific audience. It's a lookalike audience on purchase, for instance. You could create a 1% lookalike audience, a 2%, a 3%, up to a 5%. Facebook will allow you to do up to a 10%. So you could build all these various segments, and then see which is winning, and then you scale. Okay. The other is you could also scale based on geos. What I prefer to do with geos basically meaning your location, whether you're a state, whether you're a city, whether you're a country, is I prefer to look at go wide initially, and then start to use the breakdown reports to look at the particular locations that are doing pretty well, and then I would scale further deeply into that location and have dedicated ad sets for just that location. So you're drilling into what is working, okay? You could also break down or drill in, based on interest. Based on devices. So if iOS devices are outperforming Android devices, you could dig deeper on dedicated campaigns into devices. The only trouble with that is you may be dealing with audiences of hundreds of thousands rather than millions. You could drill down by age. I like that a lot, or even gender. Okay. And then one of my favorites, you could drill down by placements. So what we do is we'll just put it to automatic placements, in general, and then we'll drill down to the top performing automatic placements, and just have dedicated ad sets to that, and then double our budget in. So you're doubling in. You're going to burn through those audiences quickly, but you're pretty much exhausting those audiences with your creative and your offer to just make sure you're grabbing as much market share as possible. Okay. So the fourth way I would recommend you scale is what I call backend scaling. And this is not necessarily like a Facebook Ninja, method or anything. This is just old school upselling, e-commerce conversions, upselling and cross-selling similar products to audiences that are working. Okay, let me give you an example. If I had a mountain bike pedal that I was selling, pedal for mountain bikes, and I managed to scale that to hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales through Facebook. What I would essentially want to do with the audiences is not kill those audiences completely, but I could come back with another accessory. This time it could be a mountain bike clothing, or it could be a GPS for mountain bikes, specifically for mountain bikes. It could be tire guards, mud guards. You're trying to just upsell to that audience, because one thing you need to look at your audience, your Facebook audience, is it's another list. It's like an email list, for you. So you basically want to nurture this audiences. You can't let them die because you sold them just once, or you've reached out to them once. Even if those, sometimes I find that if I reach out to an audience a second time with a second offer, they might take on the second offer because they've seen me one time before. It takes about a minimum of 6 touch points for people usually to buy from you, old school marketing, right? So try and reuse your audiences with fresh offers. It works a lot of the time, and and just make sure you're cross-selling and upselling all of the time. So that's another way. I try to I try to do this is also expanding my product offer. Okay, that helps quite a lot also. Okay, so what you do finally, what you do when a campaign stalls? Well, if a campaign stalls, don't stop. That's the first thing you should do. You don't necessarily need to stop. What you need to do is you need to understand, where the issue is coming from. You need to diagnose the issue. The issue again boils down to those two things I talked about scaling, which is audience on the one hand and your creative on the other hand. Your offer. Right, one of them may have been exhausted. Your audience may have been exhausted. You may have gone through your entire audience, or they just don't like it. There might be audience fatigue, or there might be creative fatigue, where people are just tired. And you need to kind of understand where the issue is coming from. And this is how you understand where the issue is coming from. You check out your audience reach in terms of like your reach numbers overall for that particular ad set, and then you look at the potential reach. And if it's doing about 30, if you've run through about 30-40% of it, it may be a time to pull out, because not every body within that base potential audience is going to convert, right? Not everybody is a prime candidate for conversion. So why waste money further? Facebook, if you've tweaked your campaign, if you've optimized your campaign the way you should, using a combination of, automatic bids and sometimes even manual bids, you would have gone through the highest value potentials, right? And if you've gone through them already, then you're just getting the shaft of, the pot, more or less. So your audience may have stalled if you've gone through 30-40% of a potential audience. So check those numbers out. And what you want to do, if that's the case, is you want to try and experiment with a new audience, right? Maybe scale down, right? Scale down and then experiment with a new audience. And if that new audience works, scale up again, okay? Then the second issue with regards to why, a campaign is likely to stall is pretty much creative fatigue. People are tired of seeing the same old ad. And what you want to do in that scenario is, in order to diagnose if that's the issue, is you look at your frequency numbers, you look at your relevancy score, right? And if like your frequency is like 3, 4, 5, these guys are really tired of your ads. And if your relevancy score is is dwindling, if it used to be 8, 9, and then it's now 5, 6, then there is an issue with your creative. So you look at those numbers. And then off the back of that, you put in new creative. But the trick with putting in new creative is you want to put in new creative that doesn't necessarily radically change the old creative. It's more like an incremental change. It's just an adjustment. I'll give you an example. One of the carousels I made adjustments to, we just tweaked it a little bit, based off on top sellers, right? By retaining fewer top sellers and then adding other potentials, okay? Now, if your cost per purchase or your CPA is too high, right, remember to always check to see if you're still profitable, okay? If you're not profitable, always scale down. So, guys, that's it for this episode. If you liked it, give this video a thumbs up. If you liked it on the podcast, drop me a comment or leave us a review in the podcast. And if you need help, reach out to me for a strategy call. My email address is kunle@2xecommerce.com, or reach out to me via Twitter. It's just Kunle T. Campbell. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch up again.